If you're planning to fly anywhere in the United States right now, whether you're on a visa, have a green card, or even if you're undocumented, you need to stop and watch this entire video because what I'm about to share with you could literally save you from being detained at the airport. The TSA is now sharing every single passenger's information directly with ICE, and this is creating chaos at airports across America. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what's happening, who's at risk, and most importantly, what you need to do to protect yourself before you board your next flight. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to US Move and Money, the channel where we bring you the most critical and up-to-date information about immigration policies, visa regulations, and everything you need to know to navigate the complex world of United States immigration. I'm so glad you're here today because we need to talk about something that's affecting millions of travelers right now, and honestly, not enough people are talking about it. Before we dive deep into today's topic, if this is your first time joining us here on US Move and Money, please take a moment right now to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. This way, you'll never miss any of our crucial updates that could directly impact your immigration status or your ability to travel. And if you find this information valuable, please give us a big thumbs up. It really helps YouTube share these important videos with more people just like you who need this information. Your support means everything to us and helps us continue bringing you these critical updates. Now, let's get straight into what's happening at airports across the United States, because this is something that could affect you or someone you know very soon. Part 1, the new policy. About a week ago, we received confirmation of something that has been quietly rolling out since May of last year, but is now being massively expanded. The Transportation Security Administration, which you know as the TSA, the people who check your bags and IDs before you board flights, is now systematically sharing detailed passenger information with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE. And I'm not talking about just a few people or specific watch lists. I'm talking about every single passenger who goes through airport security in the United States. Let me be crystal clear about what this means. Every time you fly domestically within the United States, your information is being sent to ICE. This isn't speculation. This isn't a rumor. This is actually happening right now at airports across the country, and it's about to get much more widespread in the coming months. So why is this happening? Well, this entire program stems from executive orders that were signed expanding data sharing between federal agencies. It started with the IRS sharing information. Then the Social Security Administration got involved, and now the TSA has been brought into this entire ecosystem of information sharing. The goal, according to officials, is to enhance immigration enforcement and identify people who may be in the country without proper authorization or who have outstanding immigration issues. But here's what makes this particularly concerning. The TSA is now required to share specific passenger data 2 to 3 times every single week. Think about that for a moment. Multiple times per week, lists containing thousands upon thousands of names are being automatically transmitted to ICE databases. Part 2, what information is being shared? Now you're probably wondering, what exactly is being shared about me when I fly? The data being transmitted includes your full legal name exactly as it appears on your identification, your complete date of birth, and critically the time and destination of your travel. This means ICE knows not only who you are, but exactly where you're going and when you're supposed to arrive. Once this information hits ICE's systems, it's automatically cross-referenced using artificial intelligence technology against their internal databases. They're looking for matches with people who have overstayed visas, individuals with outstanding deportation orders, people who have had criminal convictions, or anyone else who might be flagged in their system for immigration-related issues. But there's another layer to this that's equally troubling. Some TSA officers are now receiving training on how to question passengers about their immigration status. Now, traditionally, TSA agents were focused solely on security threats, things like dangerous items, prohibited substances, weapons, that sort of thing. But now, some of these officers are being instructed to look at immigration documents and make determinations about people's legal status in the United States. Let me share a real example that happened just recently because this illustrates exactly what can go wrong. There was a young woman traveling from Los Angeles to New York. She's here legally on a student visa attending university. Her actual visa stamp in her passport had expired, but she had a valid I-20 form and a valid I-94, which, for those of you who don't know, these are the documents that prove you're legally allowed to be in the United States as a student, even if your visa stamp has expired. This is completely normal and completely legal. You don't need a valid visa stamp to stay in the US or travel domestically. You only need it to re-enter the country from abroad. So, what happened? The TSA officer saw her foreign passport, asked to see her visa, noticed it was expired, and despite her explaining that she had the proper documents to be in the country, this officer didn't understand the immigration regulations. The TSA agent pulled her out of line, notified ICE, and she missed her flight. Eventually, ICE agents arrived, checked everything in their computer system, confirmed she was completely legal, and let her go. But by that time, she had already missed her flight, had to book a hotel, and had to fly out the next day, losing both time and money. And nobody compensated her for any of this. Part 3, arrests and detentions at airports. Now, let's talk about what's happening with actual arrests and detentions, because this is where things get really serious. ICE agents are now being strategically positioned at airports across the country. They're not just passively receiving lists anymore. They're actively waiting at terminals, ready to question and potentially detain passengers. Here's how this works in practice. When ICE receives those weekly lists from TSA, their AI systems immediately start cross-referencing the names. When they get a match for someone they're looking for, someone who overstayed their visa, someone with a deportation order, or someone with certain criminal convictions, they can position agents at that person's destination airport or even prevent them from boarding in the first place. We're hearing reports from travelers who have landed at their destination only to find ICE agents waiting specifically for them. In other cases, people have been stopped before boarding and prevented from flying altogether. This type of enforcement at airports was extremely rare in the past. Traditionally, ICE focused their resources on other types of enforcement operations, and they generally left domestic travelers alone. But that's changing dramatically, and it's going to get worse as we move further into this year. This program has been operating since May, but it was limited to certain airports. Now it's being expanded to cover all airports nationwide, and the volume of information being shared is increasing to a weekly basis. Some ICE officials are reporting that they've seen an increase of over 65% in arrests of immigrants at airports and transit locations. These are people who otherwise would never have been detained, people who were just trying to fly to visit family, attend business meetings, or go on vacation within the United States. Part 4, who is at risk? So let's talk specifically about who needs to be most concerned about this policy, because different categories of people face different levels of risk. First and most obviously, if you're in the United States without any legal status, if you overstayed your visa and don't have any pending applications or protection, you are at the highest level of risk. The good news is that as long as you have a valid passport, TSA should still allow you to board domestic flights. A passport is a valid form of identification for flying within the United States. However, once your information is shared with ICE and they cross-reference it with their databases, they're going to see that you entered the country months or years ago, that your authorized stay has expired, and they may want to question you or detain you at the airport. Second, people who are in transition with their immigration status need to be very careful. What do I mean by transition? I'm talking about people who have filed for a change of status. People who have filed extensions of their visas, people who are waiting for approvals, or people whose status might not be immediately clear from looking at their documents. You might be completely legal, but if your documentation isn't straightforward, you could face questioning that causes you to miss flights or face unnecessary delays. For example, if you filed to change from a tourist visa to a student visa, or if you're extending your work visa, you need to travel with all of your documentation. Don't just carry your passport. Bring your receipt notices, bring your I-94, bring any approval notices you have, bring everything that proves you're in legal status, even if it's not immediately obvious. Third, DACA recipients need to be particularly cautious. DACA, or Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, provides work authorization and protection from deportation, but it's not a visa, and it's not a pathway to citizenship. Sometimes it's not immediately clear to enforcement officers what DACA status means or how it works. If you only have your work permit card and you're in the process of renewing your DACA, you could face questioning or delays. I anticipate that some DACA holders will be temporarily detained or questioned long enough to miss their flights while officers verify their status. The same concerns apply to people with temporary protected status, known as TPS. Even if your TPS is current and valid, if you're in the process of renewal, or if officers aren't familiar with TPS from your particular country, you could face issues. Fourth, and this surprises some people, even green card holders can be at risk in certain situations. If you're a lawful permanent resident, but you've had a DUI conviction, or if you're going through criminal court proceedings, or if you have certain types of criminal history, ICE might flag your information. They cross-reference the TSA data with criminal databases as well. So if you're a green card holder traveling domestically and they see you're in the court system or you have certain convictions, you might be pulled aside for questioning. In extreme cases, depending on the nature of the conviction and your specific situation, you could even face detention while they investigate whether your green card status should be revoked. Part 5. Real cases and examples. Let me share another real case that just happened a few weeks ago because it really drives home how serious this situation has become. A 19-year-old woman named Lucia Lopez was traveling to Hawaii to visit family. She went through airport security just like any other passenger. But because of this data sharing program, ICE had flagged her information. When she arrived in Hawaii, ICE agents were waiting for her at the airport. She was detained right there, taken to a separate room, questioned extensively, and according to reports, she was intimidated into signing documents without fully understanding what she was signing. She was then placed into deportation proceedings immediately. Think about how terrifying that must have been. You're 19 years old, you're trying to visit family, you land at your destination, and suddenly you're surrounded by federal agents, separated from anyone who might help you, put in a room and pressured to sign papers. This is the reality of what can happen when you're stopped at an airport by ICE. They have enormous power in that moment. They can detain you. They can question you for hours. They can pressure you to sign documents that might waive your rights or agree to voluntary departure. And you're in an incredibly vulnerable position, especially if you're stressed, scared, or separated from family members who might advocate for you. Part 6. What you can do to protect yourself. So, what can you do with this information? How can you protect yourself if you need to fly domestically? I'm going to give you very specific, actionable advice right now. First and most importantly, you need to understand your current immigration status completely. Are you undocumented? Has your visa expired? Are you in the middle of filing for an extension or change of status? Do you have pending applications? You need to know exactly where you stand legally before you even think about booking a flight. If you are undocumented or if you've overstayed your visa, you need to very carefully assess the risk of flying. I'm not telling you that you absolutely cannot travel if you have a valid passport. The TSA should still allow you to board with a valid passport as identification, but you need to understand that you are taking a real risk right now. This program is still being rolled out. It started a few months ago, and many airports are still in the early stages of implementation. We know it's going to get significantly more widespread and more aggressive throughout this year as the program expands to all airports nationwide. But right now, depending on which airports you're flying through and various other factors, you might be okay. However, you need to understand that there is a real possibility you could be detained. If you decide the trip is important enough to take that risk, here's what you should do. First, travel with someone who knows your situation, someone who can help you if something goes wrong, someone who knows who to call. Second, have the phone number of an immigration attorney programmed into your phone and written down on paper. If you're detained, you have the right to contact an attorney. Third, do not sign anything without speaking to a lawyer, no matter how much pressure you're under. ICE agents might tell you that things will be easier if you just sign, that you'll be released faster, that it's just a formality. Do not sign anything without legal advice. If you're someone who is in the middle of an immigration process, if you're extending your visa, changing status, or waiting for approvals, my advice is to travel with every single piece of documentation you have. I'm talking about your passport, your I-94, any receipt notices from USCIS, any approval notices, any work permits, your I-20 if you're a student, your DS-209 if you're on a work visa, literally everything. Put it all in a folder and keep it with you in your carry-on bag. Why all of this documentation? Because if you're questioned, you need to be able to immediately prove your legal status. Remember that TSA officers and even some ICE agents might not be fully trained on the nuances of immigration law. They might not understand that you can be in legal status even with an expired visa stamp, or that a receipt notice proves you have a pending application that maintains your status. Having everything with you in an organized way can make the difference between a 2-minute conversation and missing your flight. For DACA recipients and TPS holders, the same advice applies. Carry your work authorization card, carry any approval notices, carry any renewal receipts, carry everything, and be prepared to calmly explain your status if questioned. For green card holders, obviously carry your green card, but also be aware that if you have any criminal history, even something like a DUI, you should consult with an immigration attorney before traveling. Some criminal convictions can potentially affect your permanent resident status, and you want to know exactly where you stand before you put yourself in a situation where ICE might question you. Part 7, your rights and final thoughts. Here's something else that's really important. You have rights even if you're undocumented. If you're stopped by ICE at an airport, you have the right to remain silent. You do not have to answer questions about where you were born, how you entered the country, or what your immigration status is. You can simply say, I want to speak to an attorney and I'm exercising my right to remain silent. You also have the right to refuse to sign anything. As I mentioned earlier, ICE agents might pressure you to sign voluntary departure forms or other documents. You do not have to sign anything, and you should not sign anything without speaking to a lawyer first. Once you sign certain documents, it can be very difficult or impossible to fight your case later. If you're detained, ask to make a phone call, call your family, call an attorney, call someone who can help you. Do not let them isolate you and make you feel like you have no options. Now, I want to be very clear about something. I'm not trying to scare anyone unnecessarily. I'm not saying that every single person who flies is going to be detained. The reality is that most people will fly without any issues. The chances that your specific name will be flagged and that ICE will have agents positioned to stop you are still relatively small, especially right now while this program is still being fully implemented. However, it is happening. It's happening more and more frequently. The numbers are increasing dramatically, and you need to be aware of this reality before you fly. Knowledge is power, and being informed about what could happen allows you to make smart decisions, prepare appropriately, and protect yourself and your family. If you need help with any immigration matter, if you're unsure about your status, if you need advice about whether it's safe for you to travel, or if you need representation, please reach out for professional legal help. You can send a text to 619-483-4549 or visit www.immigrationapp.com. Leave your details and someone from the team will contact you as soon as possible to discuss your specific situation. Before you go, I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you experienced any issues traveling domestically recently? Have you been questioned about your immigration status at an airport? Are you worried about flying because of this new policy? Let me know in the comments below. Your experiences help other people in our community understand what's really happening out there. And once again, if you found this information valuable, please do me a favor and share this video with anyone you know who might need to hear this. Share it with your family members, your friends, your coworkers, anyone who travels domestically and has any kind of immigration status concern. This information could literally prevent someone from being detained. So please help us spread the word. Don't forget to subscribe to US Movin' Money if you haven't already, and turn on those notifications so you never miss our important updates. We're constantly monitoring these situations and bringing you the latest information as soon as it becomes available. Thank you so much for watching today's video and for being part of the US Movin' Money community. Remember, staying informed is your best defense in these challenging times. We're here to help you navigate these complex immigration issues and to make sure you have the information you need to make smart, safe decisions for yourself and your family. Stay safe out there, be careful when you travel, and as always, we'll see you in the next video with more important updates. Until then, take care, stay informed, and keep fighting for your dreams in the United States. This is US Move and Money, and we'll talk to you very